Welcome back to the show. The world is such a huge place, and yet it is so small. The theory of 6 degrees of separation, or the 6 handshake rule, tells us that the world is smaller than it really is.
I read somewhere that everybody on this planet is separated by only 6 other people.
These theories tell us that if we know 6 people, we know everybody. We just have to find the right 6. Now, there was a movie about it called 6 Degrees of Separation, so definitely check it out if you really want to know the in-depth of it. Now, this theory was developed before social media. So with social media, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, etc., the world is actually smaller and smaller and smaller with today's technology. As you might find out, that as time moves forward, that you will realize there is a lot of truth to this. So, without further ado, I'm gonna tell you my stories of how the world is so big and yet so small. My first story is about 2 cities 480 miles apart. Let's just say they're not down the road from each other. I was raised in San Jose, California, and I went to college in San Diego. My first year at State, I was living in the dorms, happy chappy, and there I met my best friends. I would say 3 of them. One of them I didn't meet until the end of the semester. His name was Justin, and he was also from the Bay Area. Growing up in the Bay Area, he lived about 30 to 45 minutes away, so the chances of bumping into each other were pretty small. As we were telling our stories about the Bay Area, he also was telling me that he was dating a girl, and she was in a sorority that was going to San Jose State. And I said, wow, that's pretty cool. I mean, San Jose State, and she's in a sorority? You must be able to go to a lot of cool parties. And he goes, yeah, it's good times. And I said, you know what? I went to a sorority formal one time that was at San Jose State. Now, I can't tell you all the details because I don't really remember all of them. I don't really remember the girl's name. I don't really remember what sorority this was, but I just remember she was a redhead and she wore a bright red dress. And then he looks at me and says, Ed, did she get water thrown on her? And I said, well, yeah, she did. How did you know that? He goes, I was sitting right behind you and you didn't even know it. I said, are you kidding me? He goes, no, we were sitting right behind you. I almost had my back to you. Small world. And yet we didn't bump into each other until San Diego. And we didn't meet at that party, at that formal. He also went to the junior college that I went to in the same years. So here's another story for you guys. So back in those dorms, that first semester, I was dating a girl. We'll call her Allie, and I only dated her for a little bit during the dorms, and then after the dorms a little bit as well. I eventually moved in with those 3 other guys into a house. We rented a house near college, and we used to have parties all the time, and she used to come over. Things didn't work out. Eventually, I didn't see her again. Now, being in college, we went on this thing called a SWAT trip, and this SWAT trip was an organization that actually gathered fraternities, sororities all over from different colleges and brought them to one area to have this huge party. So we went up to Tahoe, and it was a long drive, about 580 miles away. We took a bus. It took literally all day. And at the end of the trip, nothing really happened during the trip, but after the trip, I met a girl just as we were all leaving, and we'll call her Lily, just to keep the names separate. And Lily said she went to UC Riverside. And I said, wow, well, I went to San Diego State. If you're in the neighborhood, let me know, give me a call. And she said, okay. She eventually gave me a call and said, hey, I'm in San Diego. Can I bring a friend? And I said, sure, why not? Come on over. And I'm thinking to myself, wow, now I have somebody that my friends can meet as well. All good things, right? So I hear a knock at the door. And I open up the door, and there's Lily. And Lily comes in with her friend. And I didn't recognize her friend, but I did introduce myself. I said, hi, my name is Ed. And as they come in, Lily's friend looks around and says, I've been here before. And I go, oh, well, we do throw a lot of parties, so it's possible that anybody could have been here. And she goes, wait a minute, do you know Allie? And I'm thinking to myself, yes, I do. needless to say, they did not stay. They actually eventually left. Que sera, sera. So the moral of that story was, at about 500 miles away, the fact that I met someone way up there, 500 miles away, brought the one friend that she had that actually knew the one girl I dated within that less than 6 months to a year period. It happens. Okay, let's keep it rolling. Got another story for you. So I met a guy named Doug. And Doug was in the same fraternity as us, but different schools. That was about 300 miles away. And I'm telling you guys all about the miles because it's interesting how big California is, and yet for some reason I keep bumping into people that know people that know people. So that's why I'm telling you the distance between the two. So Doug is actually from San Diego, but then he went to school 300 miles away. And where he was going to college, he met a girl named Jen, and they started dating, and then they moved down to San Diego. And that's how I met him. Jen is actually from the Bay Area. And I asked Jen, I go, oh, you're from the Bay Area? Which part? She goes, San Jose. I'm like, I'm from San Jose. I'm like, which part of San Jose? Like, which high school did you go to? She goes, well, I went to Del Mar High School. And I go, wait a minute, you went to Del Mar High School? Did you play volleyball there? And she goes, well, yeah. And I go, did you have a coach named Chanel? She goes, yes. I go, do you ever remember a guy that worked with Chanel, like as an assistant coach for maybe 1 year? She goes, yes, that was me. What are the odds, right? So these stories go on and on. I can't even tell you how many stories I have, but I'm gonna just go through a few more for you. This is kind of your bonus round. So the other two friends of mine, they're twins actually. They're from the Bay Area. Those are my best friends in the dorms that I met. Those guys actually were baseball players at the same community college that I played soccer at. And we played sports in the same community college, and yet we still didn't bump into each other until we went to San Diego State. So I moved from San Diego to Arizona just recently. And when I first got here, maybe only a month into like living here, I went to a pizza shop and I ordered some pizza and I think a calzone, and I was getting everything ready. So I go to the place, pick it up, and the register girl looks at me and she goes, you look familiar. And I go, well, I'm not from here. So she goes, wait a minute. Did you go to San Diego State? And I go, yes. Were you in a fraternity? Yes. She goes, I was in a sorority at San Diego State. She's like, I think we've met. And I'm like, oh, wow, what are the odds? Because she was a couple years older than me, the people that she was telling me about. The fact that she remembered me, and I don't think I was wearing anything for Greek or San Diego, which is odd. So I always found that interesting. Okay. Last story for you guys. So I got a job as a business consultant about 45 minutes north of where I lived in San Diego. About 6 months prior to me getting the job, I actually was on a reality show, and I was only on 2 episodes of this reality show. I wasn't one of the main characters. I was actually just a guest of one of the main characters. I didn't think much of it because it wasn't that popular of a reality show. I didn't think of it as, oh, people are gonna think, recognize me or anything like that. But as I'm walking to my cubicle for the first time at my new job, I noticed a lot of eyes on me. And people were kind of looking at me and smiling. And I walk in and they started asking me if my name was Ed, and I said yes. And they said they recognized me from the show. And at that moment, I thought to myself, wow, I kind of feel like a celebrity. If only for about 5 minutes of my life, I definitely felt like a celebrity at that one little moment. So if you're ever feeling alone, go out and meet 6 people, 6 new people, and then you'll know everybody. Please, which story did you love most? Put it in the comments down below and let me know. Thank you guys all for watching the show, and you guys make your next day a great one.